everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of our new engineering series. In this episode, we will be covering how the class system will work, and we will be making the mechanisms, the functions and whatnot work for that. I said in the last episode that was what we were going to do, so time to just lunch it up. Now note, we did have some recording issues because I was working on this episode yesterday. So a few of the changes I've got here are this GUI I set up. And it's just a simple screen GUI with a frame called container and the two buttons. I put a gradient image into them, made this size. You're able to color them, whatever. We will be creating a new series on making GUIs, however, so do stay tuned for that. Alright, so we got our starter GUI, and there were a couple other changes I had to make as well. One of them was in our settings. If you remember from the previous episode, everything was contained in one big table, and it was called module.settings, and then we put them into subcategories. What I had to do, or what I didn't really have to do, but what was better to do, was make individual tables with those settings. So all I did was take them out of the one big one. We've also got a GUIs folder and replicated storage where we'll put all the GUIs we'll copy over into players and whatnot. So those are pretty much the only changes you have to worry about. Alright, so we're going to get started. And once you have your own GUI worked out, I already have mine here, you are going to put it into folders GUI start. I use start because the start GUIs are the ones that are going to be there when the player first joins, and they will not appear again. And until we get the data persistence or data store systems working, this is just going to keep appearing every time a player joins the game. It's going to take saving their class and whatnot to stop it. So once you have two buttons for classes, you're going to need to come in here, and you're going to need to make a new script. And this script is going to be responsible for handling their decision. You'll also set their starting stats according to what we put in settings. And I also renamed stat increases to class stats, just for future reference. So first we're going to need to know or have these two buttons as variables. So local night button equals script.parent. Actually, you know what? Put that script into the parent GUI. So now we're with script.parent, we're referencing choose class. We need to go into the container, and then we'll grab the night button. For the ranger button, we'll do the same. And that does it for setting those variables. Now we're going to need to know the events when the player presses those buttons. So what we're going to do is night button dot mouse button 1 click connect, and we're going to call an anonymous function, which is a function that is not defined anywhere else. This is right here. We'll do choose class night. And for the ranger button, we'll do the same thing. Choose class ranger. Alright, so we got those two set up, and as you'll see, there's a blue line under choose class. That is because we have not defined the function yet. The function choose class and the name of the class. Alright, so now that we got that, we're going to need a local lower, which will do string.lower the name. This is for referencing the classes in the table since they are in lowercase. I do believe we're also going to need the player who clicked the GUI. To get the player, we'll just go through player GUI, which is a folder inside the player's object. To get to that, we're going to need to do local player equals script.parent, which will take us to choose class. And choose class would be in the player GUI folder of the player's object. So now we're in player GUI with another parent. And one more parent puts us in the player object itself. We're also going to need their attributes. So player.attributes which is what we named the folder that we put in there, right here. We're also going to need the class value. So to get that, local class equals player.class. Alright, so now we have these. We need to set the class of the player to the button they clicked. That's what the name is for. That'll tell us which one they did, because we pass Knight and Ranger to it whenever they click either of the buttons. So class.value equals name. That's as simple as it gets. Now for attributes, we're going to have to set these independently, but we're going to need the settings to do so. So local settings equals require, since we're going to need to call it again, lower replicated storage dot settings. Now we can access the settings, and we will go attributes, and we'll have to set each of the attributes according to what we have in the settings tables. So ats.strength.value will equal settings dot class stats dot knight dot str. Or rather, no, we don't want to set knight. That's why we did this lower, because if we use a capital knight like we had planned there, or like I had done there, it was going to find it because there is no knight with a capital K. So we use the lowercase form of it. That's .dexterity.value. Same settings.class stats lower .dexterity. Attributes dot. We also have strength con for constitution. Settings.class stats lower .con and luck as our final stat. Our attribute. Class stats lower luck. And that should set it. Now, when we click the buttons, they're going to do all this, but they're not going to disappear. The player will still have them on their screen. So to fix that, we just go script.parent destroy, and that'll destroy choose class. Now it's not going to show up. We're not going to put this in starter GUI because that won't help us any. We only want it to display once in the entire play through the game. So we're going to have to go back to our main script, and here we're going to need local class GUI equals replicated storage, because we already defined it up here. Replicated storage dot GUIs dot start and dot choose class. But we're also going to need a clone of it, that way other people can get it as well. Class GUI dot parent will equal new player dot player GUI, which is the folder that holds whatever GUIs are in the player's screen right now. Alright, so now that we got that set, yes, now that we got that set, we're just going to go to test. And it didn't show up. That's odd. Oh, messed up an L. Just one more time. Alright, so now we got our GUIs here. We'll check to see to make sure that the class it's empty, and our attributes are all defined as 6, which is what we set them to default. So we're going to choose Knight. GUI is gone. We're now Knight, and all our stats have been adjusted accordingly. And there you have it. That is setting up the class system. Now, I did not plan on doing this until a later video, but since we still have so much time left, I'm going to run you through a quick way to check a player's class. That way you can restrict certain things to what class a player is. So we're going to add a new part to the workspace. We're going to size it up a bit. And we are going to just do a quick couple things. Now we're going to make this a door that only knights, or rather rangers, can pass through. So you're going to need a script. So clear that out. And one thing we're going to need is local door equals script.parent. We're also going to need a function that tells us when something touched the door, so door.touched connect. And we will do the function open. That'll tell us the part that hit it. Alright, so to do this, we're going to need to make sure if the part that touched it, if the parent of the part, because characters are in models with a humanoid in them, so if part.parent find first child humanoid does not equal nil, then we'll continue on. Now that we have the now that we've checked to see if it was a human that touched it, we are going to get the player object of that character. So local player equals game.players, and we are going to find first child part dot name. Since the name of a player's character model is the name of the player itself, that's how we can get it. Now, if player.class.value equals whatever we want to set it to be, so we wanted to see if it was a ranger, then we can make the door invisible. So door.transparency equals 1, and door.canCollide, remember that, yes, canCollide, it's all camel caps, canCollide equals false. That way the door will open. We'll wait 5 seconds. Do door.transparency equals 1 or 0. That way it turns back completely visible. And canCollide is true. That way nothing can go through it. It should be as easy as that to see whether or not a player is a certain class, which means any weapons you want to restrict to only certain classes should be able to be easily solved set like that. So our class is Ranger. We should be able to walk through this thing. Yep. Works just as expected. And that is the end of this tutorial. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'll be making the next one real soon.